Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You picked an outstanding day to be here today. Well, I've got an offer for you. This is an amazing product. It's probably the best product since the invention of the wheel. In fact, many things that have wheels use this product. It gets you from point A to point B. It helps your community. It makes you healthy, and some say even more attractive. Ladies and gentlemen, can I sell you a trail today? Whew, I've been doing this too long. Sometimes when I'm out there advocating trails, and we're all trail advocates here, I feel like the public thinks I'm a carnival hawker. I'm trying to push a product onto an unsuspecting soul, and we know that's not the case. So what I really want to talk about today is understanding and overcoming trail opposition. First, a little bit about yours truly. My wife of 38 years, she told me to say that. Wherever we go, we're hitting the trails. We're hiking, biking, kayaking, and now we have a couple little granddaughters, so we're introducing them to the outdoors. So outdoors and trail, it's near and dear to our family. And my 30 years of practice has been largely in the great state of Florida. That's right. America's #1 source of weird news since 1845. We had problems with voting 2 weeks ago, around Easter. This video went viral. A 6-foot-tall man in a bunny suit was pummeling some guy in a street fight. No wonder kids are scared of the Easter bunny. All I can do is say, it's the heat, it's the humidity, and we'll just move on. But we have hundreds and hundreds of miles of fantastic trails. From the Keys and the Everglades, through old Florida towns, to the Space Coast, up through the Panhandle. And we are building more and more trails, and we have reached a critical mass, and we are just moving in a great direction here. So who doesn't like trails? I mean, who can say no to nature, no to recreation, no to family fun? But they do. Now, we're early in the project development process often, so this is the time to get input from the public. I was introduced, I guess, to the biggest opposition with the 46-mile rail-to-trail system. I was going through a NEPA analysis, and I knew I'd run into the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. I knew I'd run into the bananas. Build almost nothing, build absolutely nothing, anywhere near anything. So yeah, those are common complaints. But what I got complaints was the former corridor is being used for other purposes, other valuable purposes to the community, like mudding and target practice. This was a former rail corridor. So, and these are acceptable uses, I guess, and target practice in Florida is a very important use. But when I went to the public meetings and I started to hear the input, these are some direct quotes. We don't want cyclists smoking cigarettes and tossing their lit cigarette butts into the ground and start a forest fire. Okay, I personally don't see too many people out there on the trails smoking cigarettes. But it's a valid concern. The other one, this is an absolute quote, one of my favorites. We don't want Speedo-wearing cyclists on a trail outside my back window. Preach, brother. Nobody wants to see that. But again, that's not a real frequent issue, but it's a concern that we must address. So my first rule is to inform and not sell. We're all excited about the project. Trail advocates are excited. The project sponsors are excited. The community wants some improvement, economic development, all that. But we have to be careful that we inform and we don't over-push that. One of the first questions out of the box is what Einstein came up with this idea. I'm working through 2 projects right now in Florida with this question. Even though it's been in the planning for 20 years, people do not know about it, have never heard about it, but it's a valid question. Trail projects typically come from advocacy groups, from local governments. They could be part of a larger plan, economic development of a town, or a regional or statewide system. The important part here in terms of informing the public is getting everyone on the same page, understanding that this trail project is a component of a larger system or a larger context. We need to put the project into context and get us all on the same page. Then we need to inform the public about the project. Again, we're early in the project development process here. There's a lot of misinformation out there. When you hit the first public meeting, there are all sorts of theories out there. Well, first thing we need to do is inform. What's the length of the trail? What will it connect? Will it connect parks, schools? Will it enhance safe routes to school? What type of water crossings will there be? Will there be bridges? What about the amenities? Are there pavilions? Are there playgrounds? Are there corrals so equestrian users can unload their horse trailer into the corral, get on their horses, and ride the equestrian trail? All this information needs to be disseminated in a very clear and concise manner because we have to get on the same page, and that's important. Then it's time to zip it. Then it's time for us trail advocates to listen, hear, and document. Part of this information process is information gathering. You all know your community better than I do in most cases, so you're going to tell me things I didn't know. You're going to tell me of some concerns that we need to address in the planning and design of this trail. And it's just amazing what you can actually learn when you stop talking. Still, I'm going to have haters. I'm going to have people at the end of the day who say, I hear it, I hear what you're trying to do, I see the larger picture, I just don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, that's valid. Brings me to my second rule, perspective. Recognize your opposition's perspective. Look at it from their point of view. We're talking about connecting communities. Maybe some of these people in rural areas do not want to be connected to the adjacent community. We're talking about increasing recreational activities. Again, some folks do not see a need for that. So we kind of have to recognize their perspective up front and don't go in hard selling, but listen, be open, because you are going to find out things that's going to make the approval of your project easier and less expensive down the road. Some of the main topics of concern are crime. Trails bring crime. I've heard that 30 years. And of course, we have a lot of statistics to disprove that. More eyes on the trail, more eyes on the corridor. When you build a trail, especially on an abandoned rail corridor, the less crime you're going to have. But the bigger issue is trespassing. Trespassing introduces a liability issue, and this is to be recognized. An adjacent property owner is concerned that someone is on a trail, they get off the trail onto their property and somehow injure themselves, and the property owner is liable. And that's a valid concern. So those are two of the big ones that we basically have to do some research, we have to listen to the input, and we have to develop some alternatives that address these issues. On this 46-mile rail-to-trail project, it starts just north of Orlando, where you see the big lake. That's just north side of Orlando. Goes all the way east down to Titusville, Space Coast, and goes east and north up toward New Smyrna Beach. Incredible amenities. It was an abandoned rail corridor. The railroads in Central Florida were built in the 1880s, primarily to serve the turpentine industry with all the pine trees. Now, these railroads connected all these little railroad towns. Well, when in 1960s, these railroads were pulled out, abandoned, these towns were no longer connected the same way. Some towns absolutely disappeared because they were basically a rail depot with 20 people living there. Oh, by the way, this particular trail, just to make it more interesting, goes through the middle of an active hunting club. And that was fun. This hunting club has 260 memberships. Those memberships are passed down like family heirlooms within the family. One day, the president of the hunt club, who's also a mayor of one of the small towns the trail's going through, said, "Come on, Greg, I'll take you on a tour. We'll go around on our little four-wheel gator and take a look at the hunt grounds." So that morning, kissed my wife goodbye, wished her good luck in the future, and got on a gator with this guy, and we toured around for a couple hours. I did make it back. He was pleasant. But the point is, here's another user group. Here's another concerned group of stakeholders who have an absolute stake in where this project is built, how it's built, and how we can protect everyone involved here. But again, this trail was part of a larger system. It went to the Space Coast, went across the Indian River Lagoon, so we had a lot of positive things working for us. One of the big issues that comes up is the use of money. A lot of the comments we get are, well, why don't you fix what's already broken? How about hiring more teachers, improving our schools? And I say fabulous to that because I've got a couple teachers in my family. Or we'll hear, we need better law enforcement in the community. This brings up the issue of how these type of trails are funded. There's often in the state of Florida and probably other places, dedicated funds. We have dedicated funds for trails, dedicated funds for access to transit, for recreational uses, et cetera. But those funds cannot be used for education. They cannot be used for law enforcement. But here's another information point you need to communicate. To the general public, public funds are public funds. If you're spending $5 million on a 30-mile trail, I want to take that $5 million and put it in my local school. Again, it's about educating and informing, understanding their perspective, but giving them the information that we all have. I guess my final point is it's hard when you're getting hammered on by the public. Some of my meetings in this rural area looked like a monster truck rally in the parking lot. I'm not kidding. Four-wheel vehicles with gun racks on the back and all that stuff. People asking questions like, if a guy gets off a trail, steals something out of my backyard, and gets back on the trail, can I shoot him with my gun? And he's sitting there, and he pads his pants. To which I go, well, I'm going to stand over here, and no, I don't think you can shoot him with your gun. But again, you have to think about their perspective. You can't take it personally. Woody Page of ESPN, I think, said it best. I mean, if your identical twin got cosmetic surgery, it's hard not to take it personally. It's hard not to be insulted by that. But still, we have to keep a level head. We have to inform. The biggest part that I've learned over 30 years of doing this is recognizing the community's perspective. I mean, here we are, supposedly, helping to bring an amenity to the community that will help them economically, physically, socially, recreationally. So when we meet a lot of opposition, we're easily caught off. And we have to recognize this is something different for these folks. They may not want this. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, this is going to policymakers and decision makers. So that's fine. But at this point, we need to gather the information. We need to listen to them and never, ever sell a trail. Thank you very much.